The Guangzhou Charge are in the upper bracket final, but who goes up against them? We're gonna find out right now. It's the Hangzhou Spark versus Seoul Dynasty, our next semifinal of Group A.
This is set to be an absolute banger, and one that we didn't really expect. We thought that if Seoul Dynasty did make it this far, then Hangzhou Spark would probably summarily destroy them. And Hangzhou Spark have really been kind of the gatekeepers thus far of APAC. Like, if you're a good team, you absolutely smack them about. And if you're a worse team, you get demolished by, I believe, Shy Duo. And weirdly, Hangzhou Spark have actually had their run through qualifiers kind of cut in two. They started off with the easier teams, Seoul Dynasty, Shanghai Dragons, Dallas Fuel, and cut their way through them fairly easily. But their last two games of both against Guangzhou Charge, who 3-0'd them, and Seoul Inferno, who demolished them as well, they've certainly looked a little bit weaker there.
Yeah, Hangzhou are very reliant on their Winston dive and have had hot and cold performances behind the Tracer Sombra, but I think it's more about teams out positioning their Sombra, dodging hacks, putting damage into Shy. He's not able to pull that off, and we don't get hacks, and that's the point that you engage on. Feels like Hangzhou get kind of lost, and then they wait for Nano, and then maybe that doesn't work. And I feel like Leave hasn't had his moment to shine due to just his team getting out-tempoed, and Tracer's all about that tempo and how much that varies with a Sombra. But Seoul look like Seoul 2.0. The Soul has been revived, I think, thanks to Sunjun.
Yeah, Sonjun coming into this roster, incredibly young, turned 17 only in March, and of course this year we've wound our minimum age back an hour from 18 to 17, so you can pick up those younger players. This guy could be such a huge developmental talent. There is so much room for this player to grow, Lemon, and I agree that we have tempo issues for Hangzhou Spark, but the same could be said of the old Seoul Dynasty as well, where Prophet is not a fantastic Sombra, and like Shy is also not a fantastic Sombra. Both of these players, they want to move away from a Sombra meta and lean into these hit scans. Prophet, we saw legendary aimbot-worthy aim yesterday on the Widowmaker, and we know that Shy yearns for that exact kind of duel, so we could see both of these teams settling into more of a Guangzhou-esque kind of identity, where we have Jimmy, who constantly plays the Hanzo.
I don't want to poop on Prophet Sombra until I see more matches. I think we've only seen one, and the Dynasty 3-0'd Rose, and it wasn't close. That's the #1 contenders team coming out of APAC. And I think when you have either Void or Belisria diving with Sunjun, and you have Prophet having all the space in the world to either hack or less attention on him to go for hacks or to land shots on the hit scan, this team is going to look so much pressure, or look so much better with frontal pressure. And Belisria already looks that much better of a main tank because of that. So Seoul Dynasty, here's your starting roster. No surprises.
Hey, you talked about the tanks looking better, Lemon. I want to talk about why that is, and that's because Krillin and Lee Soo-min have finally figured out that healing the tank is important. Previously, it seemed like our tanks for Seoul Dynasty were getting left out to dry again and again by their support line, but yesterday all you need to do is go back to Antarctic Peninsula and see the timings on the Suzus from Lee Soo-min onto Void continuously rebuffing aggression that was being very heavily front-loaded into the tanks of Seoul Dynasty. And the thing is, if you can get that kind of peel onto your tank, if you can get that kind of resource push into your tank, that means you try and force 1v1s, alternative targets for the enemy. And they have to go up against duelists like Prophet and Sonjun. And Sonjun yesterday was brutal in the Tracer duels, absolutely demolishing his competition. And we were expecting a Pritter to be able to be a pretty handy duel for Sonjun. His history on the teams that he's been on, Sonjun's almost been Choice 1-esque, where Choice 1 was the best player on mediocre teams. The same could be said of Sonjun and his Tracer, but now he's going to a far more known quantity. A Pritter was the first level. He was the understudy. He was the Darth Vader to the Emperor Palpatine that is Leave, the MVP. Sonjun has his work cut out for him today in a Tracer versus Tracer.
And the one surprise we can talk about, no surprise, Void plays a lot of the control maps. He loves his Queen, Ramatra, or the Reinhardt, and we go to Antarctic as our first map. They won this against Rhodes yesterday. Very comfortable for them. It did go to round 3, but up against them is the dive superstars of course, Gushue, Shy, Leaf, Monk, and Linksa. Really focusing on anything from the double flanker to maybe letting Leave play other things, but really Leave has been in Tracer jail with Shy, sometimes going to the Sojourner Cassidy.
Yeah, I feel like Leave in Tracer Jail is it's a fairly okay status for Leave. It's really Shy who needs to be broken out of Sombra Jail, and I think that Hangzhou Spark are probably the team that I'd be most likely to call enslaved by the meta when it comes to this double flanker. In NA, the double flanker works out incredibly well, and on the surface, it's a fantastic composition. But you need to have a top-tier Sombra to make it work, and I don't know if Shy is that. And that's not to disparage Shy. Like, I know that Shy is a world-class player on so many hit scans, but I just don't think that his timing on the Sombra or his decision-making, his uptime is amazing compared to what he can achieve on a kind of Jimmy-esque hero pool. I think that they're very similar in terms of how they operate as hit scan DPS.
The one time we saw Antarctic from the Hangzhou Spark was against the Dallas Fuel. It did go all the way to round 3, and Gushue eventually brought out the Reinhardt with the Mei Cassidy Lucio Bap combo, but only on Icebreaker. The other rounds, Hangzhou will still try to force the dive no matter what, and that's where on sub-level, the rush composition can be very strong, and that's how they drop that to the Dallas Fuel. So we'll see what round will pull first, and if Hangzhou are gonna stick with the dive, and also what flavor of rush are gonna run. Void has played everything from Ramatra, Queen, and Reinhardt. So incredibly flexible. You never know what you're gonna get out of them.
Yeah, you never know what you're going to get out of that tank, but the one constant about Void that I'd like to analyze is the new hair color, to be honest. The dark blue, I'm really digging it. Making Void look absolutely fly, and of course, Void is going to be dragged out of retirement, Lemon. Was close to bowing out of competitive Overwatch, a world champion previously with Shanghai Dragons. While 2022 was not a successful year for them, I think that Void certainly could have exited on a high if he'd so desired, but being picked up initially as the sole tank for Seoul Dynasty, eventually being supplemented with Belos Rhea, there must have been quite a beseeching offer made by Toby on the coaching staff to bring him back from the brink of retirement and say, hey, Seoul Dynasty needs you, Seoul needs you, I need you. And hey, this has been good for Void.
Yeah, and out of the two flavors of Rush, if you go Queen, if you believe Sunjun is best at Tracer, it matches better with the Queen just for overall speed. Ramatra, you usually pair this with your Tracer player on the Mei. So wanting to play the speed, violence, and aggression here on sub-level, this is the composition they prefer, and Prophet is back on the Sojourn. Seoul Dynasty already command the high ground, as Hangzhou Spark will set their sights on Krillin and Lee Su-min. Leave has already showed himself back there in recalls, as Seoul Dynasty will have to have eyes at the back of their head, as they're also throwing knives at the head of Langsa, but not able to connect through that yet. Seoul Dynasty turn around because they are getting flanked by the Spark dive, which hasn't netted any kills yet.
Void now, though, stuck on the low ground, but Gushue spends too long fighting the Junker Queen. You cannot risk that as a Winston. He's done good job thus far of avoiding a frontline confrontation. But the second that Void's going to close that distance, for Winston will not be long for this world. Remember that his chances to disengage are going to be very often waylaid by that knife that will just drag him back midway through a jump and leave him with no recourse and no way to escape.
A good cooldown usage from Seoul, you know, whether you want to shout in or use the shout as a reaction to the dive. And Lee Su-min hasn't died despite the Spark dive always heading his direction. Seoul Dynasty give up the high ground, but they are just trying to also contest. Because of the double flanker situation from Spark, they can pressure the point so often, and Seoul Dynasty need to be ready and not be split up too much. Whether you need the speed of Krillin or Void's shout to pick up a fight, Seoul Dynasty have to play off of contact. Sunjun did get hacked, recalls in place, blinks away, and Seoul Dynasty continue to live.
Try already with an EMP. The spacing here from a Seoul Dynasty supports is not great. They could both get caught at once. Remember that Void can't really change position super quickly to deal with that.
Yeah, at least you change positions away from the pulse bomb. Kitsune rush from Seoul to take advantage of this moment. Will they walk into the EMP of Shy? And Seoul Dynasty somehow healed through that thanks to the accelerated support of Lee Su-min. Pulse from Leave is a good fight starter, removing that tank. You don't have a lot of front line, and you don't have a lot of speed having that shout removed. Hangzhou Spark on a nano. They haven't cleanly won this fight yet, needing to remove that presence of Seoul Dynasty. Now that Void is back in the picture, they sound barrier. Seoul Dynasty want to keep this point, but it does get flipped, and Prophet's gonna make sure it doesn't stay in their hands for too long.
Shy's on his jealous arc right now. He wants to be the one doing that. He wishes to be the Sojourn, but it simply is not happening. Hangzhou Spark miscalculated that engagement. They used the EMP into the Kitsune Rush, which meant more heals could come out of the Kiriko, more Suzus as the cooldowns were coming up quicker. And now Void, when you come to the point, the Rampage is ready and waiting as you take them to the Underworld.
Oh, Void got fumbled. He got Suzu. What a save by Lee Su-min. And Spark, they rally, but the Rampage gets stunned up. Not a great call from Void, and Seoul Dynasty don't have someone to lead and command this fight. Monk is flanked. Sunjun hasn't delivered the final blow. 99% though Seoul, they'll give it up to Spark again.
Langsa got what was needed, hitting the stun onto Void. Of course, if Void had been able to end that Rampage and then chain it into a Carnage, the self-healing could have been enough to sustain them. Now Shy, easily able to try and track this incoming.
Suzu again! Lee Su-min is saving Void so much. If Void was on the desk, he would give him player of the match. That is for sure. Great timing as Seoul Dynasty can fight the tale again. They go to the high ground to the right side, but they might be walking into an EMP. Do they know this is coming? Prophet is charged up. Sunjun wins the Tracer duel. Leave is removed. Shy pulls the EMP, and I don't think it really hurts Seoul Dynasty at all. Kitsune Rush from Lee Su-min as Seoul Dynasty command the fight.
Prophet saw Langsa drop down, was like, hey, is that free access to your Ana? Don't mind if I do. Gushue won't be able to stay long, should be executed before overtime's ticked up again, but Shy keeps it going.
That's just Seoul Dynasty winning this and just needing to clean up the fight. It's up to Langsa. There's a nano. Okay, to save Langsa. And Prophet jumped in to get the final blow and got punished. Monk might have just saved this fight as Langsa is anchoring the point for everything he can, but the pulse bomb will remove him, and Spark have no supports and no hope as 100 to 48 goes to Seoul Dynasty.
100 to 48%, Lemon. But would you believe that both of these teams have the same number of deaths? It's been a fairly attrition-focused game as Void has been continuously warding away Hangzhou Spark from actually touching the point and actually making good on the kills that they've got. And I'll tell you what, Prophet's been able to roll out here on the Sojourn, play what he's best at, and this is what we're kind of hoping that maybe a Hangzhou Spark would do to put Shy on a hero that he's a lot more confident on, that he can extract a lot more value from. Just going with the Guangzhou charge method and saying, hey, we don't want Jimmy playing Sombra, so let's just put him on a hero he's really good at and we'll get value out of it that way.
Shy was kind of half and half on his EMP efficiency. They won one fight, lost one after that. Void on the Ramatra. He can hold a lot better space here on Labs. This is usually the composition they run. We'll see how comfortable Sunjun is on the Mei. Flexibility has been something I've wanted to see more, or just to learn more about Sunjun, because I'm the new one here, and so is he. Spark will have at least the high ground control with the dive, wanting to tunnel in on Prophet, see if they can spark up his jump. But he is unlocked. Void will be there first. It is contested by Leave on the right side, just putting trickle damage in. Leave is going to need more reinforcements to remove this Ramatra, as Void just stares into the abyss in Seoul Dynasty. They wall themselves off, just trying to protect. But Seoul Dynasty take angles around the Spark and manage to not let them really get anything out of their bag.
Check out that dreadful duo of the Mei and the Lucio. This is a strategy that's almost a year old now. It was a hallmark of how London Spitfire were playing the game beforehand, Lemon, in their signature rush composition. And completely unexpected by Hangzhou Spark. They did not expect for both those players to be there that quickly. They might actually get staggered here if they're not careful. But no, over into the safe and loving arms of Monk. And I'm happy to see Shy here playing the Ashe, but I would have much more enjoyed a Hanzo. He seems like such a powerful character at the moment with that consistent threat of a one-tap.
Seoul Dynasty have the Amp Matrix. This is great to defend with. As soon as Spark look in a committed position, maybe after the jump of the whip place down that Amp Matrix. But we'll see if Lee Shy will pressure them off this ultimate. That's why Lee Su-min is playing in so deep. Spots Gushue without a bubble and without much friend. Does jump back to safety. And with Void removed by the pulse of Leave, gives Spark a chance to take this fight 5v3 despite the Amp Matrix that was nicely called by Lee Su-min. Spark will flip the point.
And now can finally play from his defensive position. This is where Ashe can get the most value. Just making sure that on your way in, you have to pay dividends. You have to pay the troll toll that is exacted by the Dynamite. That one not actually striking home, but hey, The Bob's going to be available, and the Bob here is easily able to be placed on point. There are plenty of collision points that can guarantee the Bob maintains that point access when you need to do that, because you can't really risk a brawl with the Ramatra.
Seoul Dynasty pressure the point, gets contested by Shy's Bob and Leave as well. Primal jumps out of the blizzard from Sunjun, and that's the difficulty of playing Mei against this comp. And we saw it in our last series. It's hard to lock down such mobile characters unless you just yeet it towards an Ana or a Brig. Either way, point still for Spark. They jump in with the Nano Winston, forcing out the jump of Prophet, who's laying down the damage, and Gushue is focusing down on the supports, but falls back. Here's the annihilation of Void, who might need the Krillin sound barrier if he's close enough to activate it, but Void does not get saved. Krillin not in range, but will activate it for the rest of his team. 4v5, and now evening things up with that kill on Langsa.
Bro, Krillin hits the soundbarrier on the lip. Now it's anybody's game. In comes the Pulse Bomb, but everyone's easily able to avoid that. A shield in the center broken down, and Leaves not long for this world either. Will be a point flip coming on through, and for Hangzhou Spark, that was a brutally expensive fight. The Nano Rally and Pulse Bomb all used. Now Void's ready to return. Oh, the Junker Queen this time instead. Ready to play against Gushue a lot more directly. No longer wanting to play this delicate tap dance of moving around that Ramatra. Instead, wishes to simply go in, cause havoc, take him to the underworld.
Prophet has found these great first picks. Forcing now the Ashe away to the double flanker. Spark returns. See if they can play off a contact of these hacks. But it takes time to get into position. The hack onto Krillin. Spark make the call. Gushue jumps in with Primal, and Seoul Dynasty are able to heal quite well. Sunshine might still even have Ice Block. Dragon Strike might force Spark back as Lee Soo-min retaliates with the Ant Matrix. And Spark are taking so much poke, and Seoul Dynasty just crushed the dive hopes of the Spark and are about to take the round 100-73 as long as you can remove these DPS of Leave and Shy.
Yes, it was a nice sleep, but I'm afraid that Void is far from executable here. Don't open that .exe because it will strike back at you. Overtime shall tick on down, Lemon. And hey, Prophet exits this one with 10 final blows and 2 deaths. What a statement from this player. And guess what? Sunjun, while maybe not being a statistically comparable Leave when it comes to damage, will walk away with more final blows. And this was a test that we wanted for Sunjun. Playing Tracer against an MVP caliber player. Leave, when he was on the Chengdu Hunters, got that MVP, and now Sunjun is proving that he can hang. Even if it's only on control, it's still a bellwether.
Yeah, Sunjun has made Seoul Dynasty look so different. Remember, this is Hangzhou Spark, the 3rd seed, versus the Seoul Dynasty, the 5th seed. But it's Seoul Dynasty that take our game number 1. But the format is a bit different in knockouts, where the loser gets to pick the map. The Hangzhou Spark, very reliant on the dive. You saw how that worked out at some points, but how counterable it really is. We'll see what they have cooked up for map number 2 after the break. Seoul Dynasty are up 1-0 in our series against the Hangzhou Spark, the third seed coming out of the Owl qualifiers. And the winner of this series goes up against the Guangzhou Charge in the upper final. Remember, there's only one spot for the mid-season madness per bracket, so the competition is just heating up.
Void do be out, Belos Ria do be in, Lemon, and you know what that means. We're likely going to be seeing ourselves some Winston here. Of course, Belos Ria. Okay, I'm gonna go a little bit wild here, but if Seoul Dynasty can win this, they have Belos Ria, who is possibly in the top 3 ball players in the world. And we know that Guangzhou Charge have no idea how to play against Wrecking Ball. There's a world where Dynasty steal this entire bracket off the back of a Belos Ria Wrecking Ball if they can get past the Guangzhou Charge today. That is my long shot, absolute galaxy brain. No chance of it happening, but it could be a real prediction.
And this is, we'll see if that works out, but we go to Hollywood next, and this is Hangzhou Spark's choice, where the last time these two teams faced, the Hangzhou Spark won, but that was during the PH and Profit era. And Hollywood was not a great map for the Seoul Dynasty, who got full held and only captured about 66%. So obviously, Seoul Dynasty look 100. We've said this about a million times, but it's looking pretty different when Sunjun replaces Profit. But Hangzhou Spark, their bread and butter has been the dive, and this is the perfect map for them.
Oh, this is absolutely the perfect map to have Guxue do Guxue things. I couldn't think of a more different set of Winstons, to be honest, than Belos Ria and Guxue. Belos Ria is one of the most passive Winstons of the least. Very much been used for, let's say, implicatory control. It's for implication that you could get hit by a Primal Rage, but Belos Ria hopes to keep people at bay, whereas Guxue, of course, is Mr. Primal Blade himself.
And when it comes to, you know, the Seoul Dynasty, they actually had Void play on Hollywood last time. And that's due to just locking in the Diva, who's been kind of their off-tank specialist, and then trying to counter Winston's in that regard. Where maybe, I know Seoul Dynasty have been experimenting between Belos Ria and Void, where Void recently had a lot more playtime, but now that Belos Ria has Sunjun, I think he can get a lot more assistance on the front, and then you have a bit more confidence in your Winston mirror. So that's why Belos Ria is in over Void.
2, 1.
Exactly so, Lemon Shy. Just doing a little bit of scouting to begin with, figuring out what Seoul Dynasty are going to roll forth with. I love to see Profit off of the Sombra still on this hit scan, but Hangzhou Spark are not fans.
The collapse, the dive of Spark, beautiful in that case. Seoul Dynasty maybe tried to dive in to catch Langsta, who's still exposed in that corner, but not really netting much. If anything, Spark are going in for round number 2, but didn't get any low enough targets. Profit did swap to the Widow to maybe get like a cheeky pick off of it, but back to the Hanzo he goes, I imagine. And Spark still have Leave hanging around. Recall's been forced, and Shy almost got the hack on him. Sunjun goes back to his supports.
Remember, Shy does have to play a little bit more scared up against the Hanzo, of course, if he's going to be the primary target taking these skirmishes, as you can't really predict the headshots when they do come through, and you might have to exit a touch early. Guxue goes deep. Watch this.
Right after the Ana, Dodge is to sleep, I guess, and Langsa bashed away from Monk's LOS, so there's no saving that. Spark have definitely fumbled the bag on this defense, but Guxue and Monk, I guess, have been able to trade at the last second, but this is still an opening for Seoul to at least get the first hit.
Hey, you know what, chat have been pretty mean to Belos Ria, but I'm going to tell you that Langsa there actually got killed by Belos Ria because he used the knockoff to actually knock Langsa into the midst of his team and off of that high ground. He landed in between Monk and Langsa and separated them. Great play from the Winston.
Okay, you just deposit that pulse bomb anywhere than near your team. Good job by Langsta. Spark do recontest at the 97%, but Guxue steps off. He wanted to play his life for the Primal, but where is Leave? Leave and Guxue need to be mentally connected to cycle these things, or you're just gonna blow your chances like that.
Well, first point gathered. Plenty of time, Lemon. Hangzhou Spark on their signature comp here, not able to players well off the aggression. Still, Gushue has been rewarded with a Primal Rage. It will be matched by Belos Rio, and I pointed out earlier how differently these two Winstons like to play their ults. But hey, Belos Rio, developmental on the Winston potentially. Still, remember, he was only a young player on the Philadelphia Fusion. There's so much room for this player to grow and improve as Leave moves in to just get a little bit of light contest on the card.
Seoul Dynasty just not worried about the high ground, just trying to bulldoze some progress on the cart. And there's really two styles of playing this map, of high ground control all the way, like in our last series, or maybe getting EMP'd. Shy hits the supports, Krillin deleted, as Lee Soo-min wished he could also ult F4, but he tucks away into the closet, keeping his life. Seoul Dynasty trying to trade backlines and do so. Both Ana's removed, like so as well. Sunjun connecting so well with Belos Rio, who had needed to use the Primal Rage. Believe gets the last slap, and Spark maybe stabilize on the cart shortly.
Bro, Lee Soo-min is freaking foul on the Tracer. Belos Rio unfortunately stays a little bit too long. Oh, they actually caught them during the movement there from Lee Soo-min. They wanted to be able to put down the nano onto Belos Rio to allow him to survive, but Lee Soo-min was still on the elevator. Couldn't grab the LOS that was needed. Seoul Dynasty, a little bit of the comms disruption here. It's going to allow Hangzhou Spark to once again set up for a dive, which is going to have to be survived.
Seoul Dynasty maybe needs Sunjun's presence on the card, but he also wants to follow Belos Rio on the dive, but Lee Soo-min is 6 feet under. Spark taking great initiative. Seoul Dynasty dive afterwards, but aren't able to convert on kills onto Monk or Lengtsa, and actually they're the ones firing back. They drop an ante, and Seoul Dynasty fall apart, but up next they'll have 4 ults.
I'm now officially asking Seoul Dynasty to start using some of their support ults when they need to survive. That would be a good step here to try and rebuff any of the aggression Hangzhou Sparks in their way. Of course, Shy going to be able to note any of the impending movements. This allows Gushue to get very easy dives without peeking first.
I took an Ana shot. Lee Soo-min very low. The hack, and Shy will build up towards EMP. And he'll be back with that soon. Sunjun delivers an important pulse bomb. Spark missing Lengtsa. Belos Rio beats Monk to death. And Seoul Dynasty take the tempo engaged before Shy's EMP could come out. That's the initiative Seoul Dynasty need to take advantage of.
Yeah, now Hangzhou Spark, they've been infected by the no-ult brainworms. Allow themselves to lose that fight with 5 ultimates in the bank, even with Shy being warded away a little bit too early. Gushue caught out. Still will have time here to pop the primal if he needs it.
Oh, you missed the sleep. That's bad.
That's bad.
I wonder if he got flailed or something, but Gushue is going to run unchecked
Almost
until the
too.
rally stuns him up, brings Gushue down to 100 HP. Seoul Dynasty rallying and fortifying their backline. Belos Rio trying to get his revenge. He's nanoed himself. Rally in response. Bit of a deja vu moment. 90 seconds for Seoul Dynasty to get point B. Lengtsa's removed. The rally no longer. And Seoul Dynasty have an EMP. But does Prophet want to conserve it? He's looking for a good group up. And Spark don't even want to recontest. That'll be a point B cap. Actually, Gushue popped on in real quick. And Leave isn't there. So once Gushue is dead, there's no contesting this.
Homie ain't ready for the cold hard fact, but Belos Rio was the better Winston in that fight by 1,000,000%. Both using the nano Winston, even a primal out of Gushue, completely fumbled some of the mechanics, and also bad call from Monk. I don't know if Gushue asked for the nano, but hit it on a disengage from Gushue, so he missed a good amount of uptime, and then it allowed for Krillin to get a good whip shot on the re-engage. Belos Rio right now, no longer a liability. He's a champion.
Oh, catching Leave there. Didn't get the hack, but the damage. Oh, he recalls right into them. I don't know if Leave wants that smoke, but EMP at the ready for Prophet. Hack on the Leave. Surely you can kill confirm this one. He blinks over to the Mega Pack. Leave needs some help. Gushue steps up right into the EMP of Prophet. Doesn't hit enough members of the Spark, but they will be giving up some space just to heal back up. Now 90 seconds for the Seoul Dynasty to get towards point C. They'll have Rally, they'll have Sunjun if he can get a good pulse bomb, and maybe he has, forces out the nano of Monk to save Blanksa from the pulse, and Seoul Dynasty have even things up, but Spark take the initiative, they dive on in. Gushue has the primal, so he can overstay his welcome, but wants to conserve it for as long as possible.
Krillin wants to hold on to this rally too here, making themselves potentially undivable. You can even interrupt an EMP. It's used to try and rebuff it instead.
4-man EMP from Shy. Krillin rallies, Lee Soo-min low. Leave and Shy can't get the killing blow until the Ana has to get involved. Either way, the pulse from Leave is great, and so are the Spark. They've brought Seoul Dynasty's time bank down to a single minute, and every stagger here counts. Beautiful hack by Shy.
Overall, maybe not the ideal rally from Krillin. Hold up, what's this? Moving over to the Moira now, of all things. For Moira Ana. Well, this is just a little bit quirky, isn't it? Krillin can't actually decide what he wants to play right now. AFK and spawn right back over to a Brigitte. Okay, funny 5 minutes. It's all right. You figure out what hero you want to play when you're ready. Not like we're on a timer here. Hangzhou Spark now, playing with minimal resources. The rally, yes, going to make it incredibly difficult for Sonjun to actually make that dive happen. Incredibly vulnerable to the big stun that it can deliver. Belos3 are less worried, but still, something needs to be born in the back of his mind.
Shy will be behind them. Seoul Dynasty have to be aware of this. Jumping on in. Belos3 being pressured though. Anti slept and more, but he just keeps on trucking against the rally though. Has to be aware of the stuns that Lengsa can deliver as Spark will head back towards the end of point C. This is Seoul Dynasty in overtime. And ready soon is the nano of Monk. This could be the lifesaver, but Belos3 has primal. Gushue does not. Belos3 jumps on top of the trailer. As Gushue has the nano, he can maybe find quicker trades. He goes after Prophet, forces the jump, needs Leave to follow up, but directs his attention to Krillin, and Spark's focus fire isn't there to get any kills. But Belos3 slept. Once he primals, he's still living, but
no.
steps off the cart. Sunjun was right around the corner.
Well, that's real sad, actually. With, I believe, 5 members of Seoul Dynasty up, that is incredibly sad, to be honest. Right now, it was looking like it could have been a real completion there for Seoul Dynasty. Still, 2.65 meters, not the worst. Here's a quick look at Shy trying to get value out of this EMP. He's
stunned. I didn't see that.
On that, bro. Oh, it's because of the expanded hitbox. Yes, it impacts Gushue first, but it actually projects a hitbox kind of like a Doomfist punch, which means that you don't have to travel all that distance to deliver a stun. That's brutal.
Oh, I didn't even see that. Thanks, Gushue. Thanks.
And thanks, Replay.
Thanks, Replay. I didn't even see that in the fight. But still very good push for Seoul Dynasty. A lot of teams feels impossible to push the end of point C, which is kind of a fortress that it is. Hangzhou Spark have to go all the way to that box of victory to even up the series, or Seoul Dynasty will go to match point. And it was kind of a very critical and deadly initial dives from Spark off of their sort of double flanker setup, but sometimes they overstay and overextend and get punished. So we'll see if Seoul Dynasty will be more measured on their approach.
Shy rolling out here on the Sojourn, might even tempt in a dive. And of course, when you do play one of those hit scans, yes, you are vulnerable to dives, but you can also play it knowingly, kind of as a bait if you've got someone who's ready to respond to that. That's why we see Gushue playing a little bit further away, so he can potentially hit a counter-diving jump onto someone who overextends themselves. But instead, it's just Belos3 getting a touch of poke.
Yeah, but the Sojourn is a good anti-dive hero. You jump away from the dives, or you follow up when they try to dive away if you think you have a chance of winning it. So Shy clearly not confident on the Sombra, and I like this call, especially after the canceled EMP we saw. Monk did get dove upon, though, and Seoul Dynasty will be ahead and hunting for more. Prophet didn't get the hack he was hoping for. Belos3 flailed away. Spark unable to at least pop that Belos3 bubble, so he stays safe for now.
Safety is all he really needs. Just give time for Prophet to gather a little bit more of that information, allowing Prophet to make a more intense and informed dive. That's a well-placed disruptor shot, though. That keeps Belos3 at bay for just a little bit longer.
Okay, Seoul Dynasty just have Lengsa fully exposed here, and Shy has to step up to help trade out on the damage. Gushue at the front, trying to trap Seoul Dynasty in mini pack room, dropping the bubble to block some of the heals. Prophet got slept. Was able to recall. No! Recalls into the line of fire. Spark at the second tick and maybe more. Do Seoul Dynasty want to recontest? Sunjun makes the call, but he's removed, and Belos3 tries to just bulldoze his way through, needing to pop Primal to survive, but decides against it. Spark will cap the point.
Hey, it turns out Shy's pretty good of a Sojourn character. Are they going to be able to use, I don't know if we've got the stranded spawns in this particular build. No, I don't think we do. So, this could be a bad hostage situation, Lemon.
Sunjun just gonna let Guxue ride. Also, the Primal ready. Guxue could have just kept that going, to be honest. Don't know why he stopped. But Shy has now been hacked. Doesn't seem too pressured. Prophet quickly translocating out. A Spark, the option of going to the high ground, but what awaits them is Seoul Dynasty.
I'd love to see a big investment here from Seoul Dynasty, just to get huge control of the high ground and be able to manufacture how the next few fights actually happen. I don't care if it takes both the Primal, the Nano, and the EMP. You need to be able to drain the clock on this point, and you do that by controlling the map.
Okay, Guxue's the first to dive. Belosria trading in the back line. Shy is the one who gets Nano just to try and survive the initial Belosria Primal, who obviously decides to just jump to the moon, I guess, over there, but Prophet has the EMP. This goes for the vanilla hack on the Guxue, but doesn't want to get his EMP. Did he get his EMP canceled? No shot! Both Sombras have suffered so much to the hands of Brigidas. We love the new buffs, and Spark love it too. They're going towards point B as long as they remove Belosria.
Did he just walk up slowly and press Q? Come on, Prophet! You're better than this! Leave has a pulse bomb. I am furious right now. But that's okay, because the Nano Boost can try and rescue this all. Maybe onto Belosria, give excellent staying power on that point, but it's Songjun instead who goes for the touch.
All right, Nano Belosria, but Lee finds his way into the back line while Belosria leaves. The Pulse Krillin. Lee Sumin, at least with the Nano. Belosria kind of stabilized in that moment. Spark are up by 1. They should be trying to do more than this. Maybe Shy is back and Leave is unsure what to do. Guxue is slapped. The kills go the Spark's way. It's just the fight goes down like molasses to get the Dynasty off this card, but nonetheless, it is a Spark point B cap.
Oh, this is going to be a brutal time bank. 4 minutes to try and hold this long corridor. Yes, it's the ideal place for Prophet to hit some headshots on that Hangzhou, but Hangzhou Spark need at most 2 good fights here. And they can manufacture those fights so well. I'm so upset that Seoul Dynasty have once again returned to this slower, more passive pacement. On control, they were finally able to actually start defining some tempo. That EMP needed to be sooner and not be right in front of a rally.
This is such a long lane for a Hangzhou, so I like the call from Prophet. As long as Leave and Shy don't make their way back there, he should be okay. Yeah, actually, you just saw Monk go for the sleep, so Sunjun got fragged a lot though, so he can't make his way back there. Prophet taking a lot of damage and not disengaging in time, not connecting to Krillin and Lee Sumin, who are getting beaten down by Guxue's Primal. And Spark are taking so much space, and this time bank is huge. The box of victory is in their sights, and Seoul Dynasty are getting staggered. Someone has to touch soon. Belosria just respawned with Primal. Krillin gets pulsed, and he's just right there, but he gets flailed by Alexa, and the Hangzhou Spark will be tying the series 1-1.
On their own map pick, they read it well. Let's drag in the Winston fight, because that's one that we know that we can win. Belosria in the end is walking away with 5 deaths compared to Guxue's 2, but in the end, it just came down to better control of how these fights were going. Cancelled EMPs are a very sad time, but I think Shy could be forgiven for getting his EMP cancelled there. Didn't know about the extended hitbox. On the other side, Prophet just walks up slowly to a rallying Brigitte and presses Q. You've got to be kidding me.
This has been a wacky day, including the C9 from our last series, as I try to bleach my brain to forget not only that, but this. But, I mean, Hollywood's an incredibly difficult map to just rotate around. High grounds, low grounds, pushing cart, all types of little rooms that Tracers and Sombras could be hiding in. But this is Hangzhou Spark feeling so confident, and this is a strong map for them. And that's why it worked out at the end with so much time remaining, too. I think 3 minutes. They will even up the series 1-1, but up next, it'll be Seoul Dynasty's map pick. We have a tie series in our OWL APAC knockouts between our two OWL teams. Seoul Dynasty versus the Hangzhou Spark, and a closer series ever since kind of the roster change we saw from the Seoul Dynasty, but the map pick ends up working out for the Spark.
Yeah, flip reverse it once more. The roster change of Belos for Void now being turned back around, and the other roster change of Sonjun being brought in for Profit has certainly been productive thus far for the Seoul Dynasty, but hey, Leave refuses to be completely hoisted by the new kid and really is trying to still maintain this crown. I like that we're going over to Escort next, of course. Shambali would be the usual pick for Seoul Dynasty. They actually beat the Shambali one-trick allegations quite recently by winning out on a bunch of other maps. But during the qualifiers, it was very much Seoul Dynasty only being good at one Escort map. Now we're not going to it, though. Instead, we're going over to Havana. And this is where Shy and Profit are really going to be able to flex potentially their snipers, but who knows, maybe Hangzhou Spark will try and doggedly remain on the double flanker that's been their bread and butter for the entirety of this year.
Yeah, just looking back at some map stats, it's Spark that have a bit more time on this. They, when they faced Guangzhou, it was extremely close, but they narrowly lost Havana to the charge and won this pretty handily against the Shanghai Dragons. Here are your tank stats, where most notably, it's Gushui dying a bit less. Anything from the support resources to the choice of dives to is your Sombra getting a hack or not are so many factors to take into account on tank performance. It's really a team effort when it comes to this.
Speaking of tank performance, here are some numbers for all of y'all who like to do some mathematics in chat. More damage done by Belos Ria, but everything else coming up. Gushui. And hey, this is, it's tough as Belos Ria to go up against one of the undisputed kings of Winston. The pantheon of Winstons, I would say, is threefold. It's Smurf, Fearless, and Gushui. And everyone can opt for which one they think is the best. Some people would say that Gushui is the best for Primal, Smurf the most consistent, Fearless simply the best all-rounder in my opinion when it comes to Winstons. And hey, maybe that can be continually proven by Houston Outlaws this year. But right now we got to prove who's going to be the winner over on Havana, Seoul Dynasty's pick.
In Seoul Dynasty, we haven't actually seen Havana from them in the open, or sorry, not in the open, but in the qualifiers. So we'll see how this goes, expecting more double flanker from them. If anything, it was Shy and Leave that started experimenting away from that, maybe having some Shy hit scan at the initial part of Hollywood, the Sojourn to maybe try to dodge some dives. We're not seeing either team maybe swap to a Diva to counter the Winston Mirror. They both are performing very well and up to their standards, but Havana, due to that long lane, this is where Hanzo's can thrive. So both teams could be moving away from the Sombra towards a Hanzo Tracer setup, on the defense at least.
I'm checking the logs here, Lemon. I'm delving into the history, into the files. And Dynasty have got to pick Escort in basically every single series that they played in the qualifiers. And they picked every map except Havana. They've picked Junkertown, they've picked Rialto, they've picked Shambali quite a few times. They must have been cooking up something in secret for this map to be this confident in a match against the Hangzhou Spark, where they have a real good chance of winning to bring this one out. And here we go. Gushui on the defense, ready to ram at them and hold them up the doors. Ram versus Ram is what we've come to expect, and Void, he certainly is brutal on this character.
Yeah, but being able to force more fights with this rush is great in terms of shaving down the time bank. I like the call from the Spark. Gushui, last time we saw him against the Shanghai Dragons, he actually opted for the Reinhardt and stuck through it through most of the map on the defense. For now, though, he is being slowed by the Mei of Sungjun. Seoul Dynasty got hit by an anti, so they were hurting and almost needing to go back to spawn, giving a chance for Spark to enter the Tango and take up more space, allowing Shy to get a hack and an assassination on Sungjun before he could go back to spawn.
Thus far, big difference is if you look at Leave versus Sonjun on the ultimate charge. However, Leave being taken up by a headshot. That's a perfect pick coming through from Profit, and this is going to mean that now Gushui is going to have a lot more trouble actually determining how the fight happens. Has to go far more aggressive with the Nemesis once he knows it's stacking that slow.
Well, Sungjun did use Ice Block, but Gushui's taking so much pressure, so wasn't able to punish this and got booped back into the action by Krillin. But Gushui back to full health, so close to annihilation. Monk has the nano almost ready, needs to give it over, does so right before Gushui falls. Gushue steps forward too, ready to give the backhand of the law to Seoul Dynasty, who can't even escape the annihilation for the extra damage. And Sunjun is the next victim. This is a good hold by Spark so far.
Unbelievable heals coming out of Monk to keep Gushue alive in that scenario. Now when Void pops the annihilation, a huge amount of his health can be stripped away by Shy. Remember, 40% of current HP gets taken away by the EMP, as well as allowing everyone else to try and follow up upon that hack with Vim and Vigor.
Alright, Seoul Dynasty have their own annihilation, but they throw the Blizzard down first and almost juke it thanks to their own Mei wall. Spark didn't even know where it was before it was too late. And the sound barrier on top for Seoul just to guarantee that fight win. Seoul will break out a spawn, but it costs them half their time bank.
Did Shy die to a Dragon Strike during his EMP? Surely not. Surely not. Oh, I mean, I think he might have tried to EMP to shut down the Blizzard. Remember, that's a new interaction that occurs now. If so, that is almost laughably bad.
Okay, Prophet. Notice there's a Sombra below him. Doesn't care. Didn't ask. Shy is just at least making, grabbing his attention as Prophet looks to the Sombra, gets slept, but is perfectly safe up here. And Hangzhou Spark don't have a dive, so they can't really pressure that unless Shy wants to throw his translocator up there. That would be a risk. Lengsa rallies. Spark play the ground war as Sunjun has isolated himself, and Void is playing quite far away, pushes up with the annihilation. Maywall to protect themselves. Seoul Dynasty try to avoid the Blizzard. Leave only freezes Void, and Spark continue to disengage, especially after Lengsa got antied. Seoul Dynasty now nano their Mei. Maybe because Prophet has slept, I guess. Sure.
My thoughts exactly. Can you even contest here? Maybe the wall will be useful for this one. Oh, incoming! That's a lot of damage already onto that brig. She's going to be burned down by the cryo beam. The Blizzard does remain. Remember, Shy can cancel this with the EMP, and so they will. Good game sense there. Not taken down this time, and Seoul Dynasty, they have fumbled this big time, and now most of their time is gone as well, Lemon. This is incredibly worrisome.
And a good cancel on the Blizzard, and a good headshot onto Lengsa right as he got in, but didn't die because of the nano. Hangzhou Spark staggered in. Seoul Dynasty ran out of ults. Ran out of hope. Sound Barrier and Dragon Strike. Gushue has annihilation. He's really draining this clock as Prophet unleashes the dragon, but Sunjun is away from the rest of the team, playing Mei like a tracer. Now is going up against Leave. Krillin, Sound Barrier doesn't save Prophet, but might save this fight for the Seoul Dynasty, which is, this would not be a very far push at all, and so far the fight goes the Spark's way, coordinating so well behind the Shy Sombra, and now the Blizzard, the final cherry on top, as Spark deny the point A cap from the Seoul Dynasty.
I beg you to make it make sense. Why would you choose Havana when you've chosen every single escort map in every single match you played in qualifiers, but never did you choose this? Is it Sonjun? Is it Sonjun's Mei that you think is better than Prophet that makes this happen? I'll tell you what, something that was very silly that occurred in the middle of this map actually was towards the end of point A, Sonjun actually walled off Gushue from Void's annihilation, ending the ult prematurely, which was a very silly bunch of events. And then of course we saw the cancelled Blizzard from the EMP, just overall bad ult tracking from Seoul Dynasty. It's it feels like panic is starting to set in a little bit in this team.
Oh yeah, did just confirm that qualifiers are predetermined, so your molding about the Shambali pick is actually not even their fault. So they were forced to go there.
I assumed it was loser picks. Damn.
That is I think my preferred format as well.
That's my preferred format as well. I've been building a narrative, and I've been spreading misinformation on the internet.
How could you do that? Everyone's gonna believe you. Honestly, I should have just let you run with it, but another
Continue your lies, Leg Day. They empower us.
But last time Spark had this spawn hold, it took half the time bank to break out. So we'll see if Seoul Dynasty can match that. This is not a Seoul Dynasty or Spark don't have to go very far to go to match point. Shy been discovered by the boop of Krillin, almost killed at 50 HP. Spark has some room to work with as Shy commanded some attention from Seoul to turn around. Leave popped up, removed Lee Soo-min, and without this main healer of Seoul, this defense is slowly gonna crumble.
They are struggling with some very sparse positioning here, and it's allowing this fast dive composition to pick them apart. Seoul Dynasty needs to be so much more cohesive with where they're playing relative to each other to make sure there's always some manner of support available. Lee Soo-min with only 18% ult charge. Regrettable. Now though, Seoul Dynasty swapping up their comp. It's going to be far closer to how we saw it played on Control Lemon, where they went up against the double flank. To just try and out-brawl the Hangzhou Spark, get on top of Monk, and make sure that Gushue is never comfortable.
Hangzhou, one fight, maybe 1.5 fights, depending on how much free push they're going to get here to get to that box of victory in 3 minutes to do so. Void on the Queen. See if he can rock their world, but so far he's taking so much poke and he's hacked. He's gonna be bursted down, and Seoul needs to feed him all the healing he needs. Void back up to full. Prophet with space to work with. Strikes through the heart of Monk. Links to the only healer next on the hit list. Sunjun removes him. There's no healers for this defense, and they need to hold, or this map will go to the Seoul Dynasty.
Sunjun back on the Tracer is exactly where he wants to be, but unfortunately for Seoul Dynasty, they've only got one lost fight's worth of wiggle room, and the next fight is going to be a doozy for the Hangzhou Spark. Pulse Bomb, EMP, Primal, Nano, you name it, it's going to be available. The rally, a couple of health packs away, of course, but if you can force Void to use that shout before the EMP comes through, you're going to be in great shape.
Shy keeps getting spy checked by a Lucio, and now it's just taking so much longer to get these EMPs going. The initiative still for the Spark. They nano Gushue, but Monk's been traded out. Sunjun has killed both supports, and now 3, saving this for the Seoul Dynasty when Spark had all the ults to win this map. It's gonna take more effort though. Spark still have Gushue hanging around, and Shy with an EMP. Seoul Dynasty aren't feeling great. They will be speeding Lee Soo-min back.
Who is this Sunjun kid? I feel like I'm J. Jonah Jameson right now. I need pictures of Spider-Man. I need pictures of Sunjun, and I need pictures of a big EMP from Shy. Can put this to bed right now by taking away so much of Void's health.
EMP related. No Kitsune Rush, no sound barrier, but Prophet, you gotta pray for him. The chills for overclock isn't enough for the defense. Sunjun is the last one, the hero, but no HP, no healers, and no hope. As the Spark, a few more meters to go. Krillin with the sound barrier rollout. He does manage to get it off to Lee Soo-min, who teleports to him. They have bought the fight.
Bought themselves a fight, bought themselves a chance. Gushue is returning now on the Wrecking Ball. In comes the rally. Can't be stunning anything just now as Void's here on the Doomfist 2 to get maximum punching damage.
Sune rush. Seoul Dynasty clutch up, all thanks to Krillin. Couldn't make a mistake in that moment. Hangzhou Spark don't have any ults in less than 30 seconds to go. This composition should be punishing the Doomfist that was only brought out for emergency situations, but Void just needs to brawl and anchor this cart. He doesn't need to play aggressive. Sunjun could be the one to do so, but Prophet got pile drived by Gushue. And Void taking so much pressure at all angles. Seoul Dynasty don't have Lee Soo-min or Krillin. There's no healing. And at the last second, the Hangzhou Spark get to the box of victory and go to match point.
They saw a skater boy, but they said, see you later, boy. I've had enough of Havana. Hangzhou Spark walk away on Seoul Dynasty's map pick with their heads held high. Though I am left confused. I am left wondering. I'm left pondering, Lemon. Why did Seoul Dynasty decide to go here of all places? Maybe they thought that they'd be better on that rush where they could force Hangzhou away from that double flanker. But still, it seems like they're not that well integrated yet with the Mei. Sunjun might be a fantastic tracer and a worthy addition to this team, but the Mei is not looking clean just yet.
And Prophet is getting dove on so much that we haven't gotten to see his moment to shine. And Sunjun is doing his best to keep the hopes alive, and Krillin too, but all that effort for nothing. Spark gets to the finish line at the last second, but Seoul Dynasty have our next and maybe final map pick coming up. It's match point for the Hangzhou Spark after a full hold on Havana. So we'll go to map number 4 to see if we'll have our first game 5 of the day, or who will be moving up against the Guangzhou Charge in the upper final. And Void is back in.
We might get ourselves a fabled Joe down winners final here. Void remains. The Seoul Dynasty's hopes and prayers here, of course, for Junker Queen has seen extensive use on push from our Seoul Dynasty. On the other side, you know that we're hoping for Hangzhou Spark that it goes to a Winston-friendly map. They love their double flanker. Esperanza, probably one of their better picks here. Colosseo going to come up instead. We saw the troubles of a less mobile, less vertically inclined comp in our previous series here, as Pokerface found their Ramatra unable to access a Ana heavy backline. It was far away last time, could be Monk this time around for the Hangzhou Spark, who may find themselves unassailable. But I wouldn't be surprised if we saw Void playing something a little bit more mobile here, maybe bringing out the Diva, but overall potentially the Junker Queen.
Yeah, I'm thinking the Queen, out of the rush compositions, the Queen Tracer would be the best suited, I think, especially off of Sunjun, just being such a master at the Tracer and just really pulling his weight for the Seoul Dynasty. And the Junker Queen just enables that with the speed of the Shout, and you need this to be a speedy composition on Colosseo. That long lane is so difficult to traverse, especially once you're exposed out on the pillar side. You need to close the gap before you take too much poke and get overwhelmed. So we'll see if Void goes back to the Queen. That's what I'm putting my bets on, but the Winston can cut off the healing of that Queen, placing the bubble at the right place at the right time. So we'll see if Guxue has it in him.
Yeah, another thing to expand upon your Queen Tracer synergy point, the 50 extra HP that you get from the Shout, it's a lot more for a Tracer than it is for other heroes. Not mathematically, but as in terms of the ratio of the health bar of the Tracer, she's such a small hitbox, and that 50 HP goes a really long way to making her much more survivable for a dive. Dealing with a 200 HP Tracer is no joke, Lemon. Sonjun already prowling around the outside, sniffing at the tall grass, hoping to find themselves a shiny Pokemon.
Seoul Dynasty just hiding now. Prophet on the Sojourn. If he doesn't get dove upon, expect this guy to frag. No, you know what, Shy? I was trying. I tried my best, Prophet. I'm sorry. Shy just had to headshot you. And that is the power of Hanzo. That is why this hero is so meta right now, because of that range and that deadliness. Seoul Dynasty down 4v5. Able to still contest the bot quite well. That's the power of Junker Queen, able to maybe stay a bit longer in this real estate. Dropping down to 60 though. Got the Suzy from Lee Soo-min as Prophet is back in the picture, hoping to get his revenge.
Yeah, we do once again play on those angles and force Shy out of them. A well-placed anti there onto Void. It's going to slow down Seoul Dynasty for just a little bit, but Hangzhou Spark still realizing they're down on resources like the bubble, like the anti, have to back away a touch earlier.
Oh, Seoul Dynasty lose Prophet again. Shy with 2 and now 3. He is warmed up and ready to serve. 3-1 is where he wants this to end, and Shy is looking unstoppable.
That's it. Never put this man on Sombra again. I refuse to be taken away from this cerebral experience of Shy simply bending arrows through the air like he's Magneto with entirely magnetic shafts or iron shafts. Hangzhou Spark now, once again, have to give over a little bit of space as Void will be looking to use the Shout to get in onto Guxue.
Hangzhou Spark, 43-meter initial push. Needing to dive above because you can contest off that top bridge, but around the corner is Void, and he loses to it immediately. Shy is 6-0, and Sunjun will take himself out. And Hangzhou Spark will get forward spawn shortly.
Well, that's a false attach at least. Unfortunate. Hangzhou Spark right here. Shy is unstoppable right now on the Hanzo. Call him a sneaky beaver because this man do be logging. Rampage though from Void. Going to be difficult to answer for the Hangzhou Spark. Good touch there to at least deny the cap from Sonjun. Boy, howdy. That Seoul Dynasty Genji skin does look bloody sick.
I really like the Genji. If you just want to duel against the Tracer a bit better, try to close the gap against Shy, have that high ground mobility. Shy is clearly a problem, and Sunjun is ready to help out with it. dashing on in, has the shout and the Kitsune rush. You face the stun of Lynx's rally and the Gushui Nano. Seoul Dynasty, they respect that. They'll back away a little bit. They'll have the corner to maybe funnel these people into a rampage, but Profit just keeps dying, and Seoul Dynasty miss out on damage, but they don't care. They rampage in. Hangzhou Spark don't have a cleanse, and that will hurt them at the end. Seoul Dynasty will be able to win off of this rampage.
Yeah, the exchange rate of rampages to meters, though, is still yet to hit number 1. Void continues to be a real pain to Gushui, but already so much has been gained for Hangzhou Spark. There's plenty of time left, though, in this bush map. 6.5 minutes for anybody to claim. Alas, Seoul Dynasty running low on tools and running low on tanks. How does this happen?
A headshot. Shy is... he, him. I don't know what else to say. Void did a good job of being proactive, going on top of the stairs. That's where Rush is at its weakest. We spoke about it in the last series. You need to be confident and not hesitate on your pushes, and Void didn't have everyone on the same page, and also the headshot is just unlucky situation. That loses so much momentum for Seoul. They will have the Blade and Profit if he stays alive this time with the overclock. Spark are far away enough that Profit can operate.
Yeah, Prophet has not been having a good time. Currently 1 elim, 0 final blows, 4 deaths. And that's another headshot going on to Void. Force him to pop that shout.
The Dragon Strike from Shy to kind of split up the fight, maybe slow it down. Profit with the overclock funnels all that damage into Gushui, who hides behind the pillar. Or at least around the corner. Heals back up to get his armor. And now close to getting Primal. Seoul investing ults, not getting much out of it. Now the blade from Sunjun after the support removes Monk and Lexa. Also thanks to Void following up with the shout, the extra kind of budget barrier that you get out of it. Seoul Dynasty,
the car
to move forward, but I guess the bot's going the other way.
Give me back Timmy. It's a kidnapping. And that's going to really slow down Seoul Dynasty here. They're not even going to be able to get any progress before the tank has made it on back. What a steal from Leave. Excellent objective trolling. He does a little bit of tomfoolery, but in the end, it all works out for Hangzhou Spark, and now they can return here with so many ultimates to play with.
Profit having to jump back, thanks to Leave applying the pressure. Sunjun able to peel for him well and get the revenge 2-on-1. Simply too much for Leave. Seoul Dynasty activate the shout, chase people up the stairs. Gushui ready to peel for his team because here comes the rampage of Void. Gets stunned up by the Lynx to rally. Will keep this queen at bay as Seoul Dynasty getting some push here, maybe going for forward spawn, hoping that Spark come to them. Gushui drops, Shy removes Void, and nothing protects the Seoul Dynasty from this monkey. He can just keep on going. I'm surprised he isn't doing more. He has the Primal Rage, but doesn't want to use it yet, I guess.
God. Shy is just turning Void into a twisted, fleshy salad. There's very little left of a Junker Queen whenever Shy levels his crosshair at that Junker Queen. And every time it denies Seoul Dynasty so much push, and we yet to see a truly effective rampage from Void in a fight that wasn't already supremely winnable.
Seoul Dynasty, they shout, and they just converge, all thanks to the call of Sunjun getting Spark low. And Seoul Dynasty have Void asleep at the wheel, enough for Pulse to hit by Leave. And Void is the target of so much of Spark's focus and a linchpin to Seoul Dynasty's pushes. So Seoul give up the point yet again, and it's Spark leading 65-42, but Krillin hits a two-man barrier, and he says, hold my drink, and goes in and feeds.
Yeah. Hold this L, actually, Krillin, if we're exchanging holds. Seoul Dynasty, unable to get anything off that. Lee Soo-min forced to use for Suzu early by Sondrin going super aggressive and catching an anti. That means it's not available to help Void when a sticky comes through. Excellent threat assessment from a Hangzhou Spark to make sure that that's gone. Now we can see a bit of troll contesting from the top of the bridge, which is vaguely safe for Seoul Dynasty, but time's starting to run out, Lemon.
These Seoul Dynasty, they are able to get the first blood with Sunjun and Void shouting and diving in, but then Void doesn't have the shout to disengage, is maybe not getting enough healing or taking too much pressure, and Void is usually the next to fall. Dragon Strike from Shy on the cart, but overwhelmed by the Dragon Blade. Good reaction from Monk. It's a 1-to-1 blade. Leave keeps just C9ing the cart. Seoul Dynasty don't even know what's happening to them, and they don't have the speed to even catch up. There is Krillin doing his job, and Leave disappears into the shadows.
Oh, Lee can't keep getting away with it. He continues to make sure Seoul Dynasty don't get anything off of these wins. It would have been a lead for now by Seoul Dynasty if Lee was not so bloody smart. His timing's so good. Now, Nano Winston stands ready to go as Sonjun has returned to the Tracer.
Hangzhou Spark just have to keep them at pillars to win this series, and it's Guxue nanoed to force Seoul back. Prophet has to deal with the bubble and a monkey in his way, so this overclock isn't netting much. Hangzhou Spark are very low now that Shy is on the Sombra. The tempo might be weird for the Spark. Leaf Pulse doesn't hit. Kitsune Rush plus the Rampage. Stunned by the lengths to rally just to slow down Void, who's hoping to insert some voids in the domes of Spark. Now, the supports, their backs are against the wall, and Void just can't be stopped. He's got the healing of him himself. And Seoul are losing grip of this fight. Leave wins the Tracer duel, and Void has to be careful. The bot is being stolen away, and Seoul Dynasty will prevent that.
Leaves making it happen again and again, resetting it to these pillars, where Guxue's happy to simply play it slow and play around the cover. Leave goes low, yes, but there's no real concern to be had here. With only a minute remaining, Seoul Dynasty are facing Oblivion in the lower bracket at the hands of Hangzhou Spark. They had an advantage of over in our first map. A little bit of space given away. Maybe trying to create a crossfire here of the Hangzhou Spark.
And Seoul Dynasty have the bot. Spark contesting from the top bridge. Guxue jumps in the back. He's got Nano, and Prophet has now gotten his 6th death of the game. Not able to jump back, not able to really do much because he keeps having to charge up the Sojourn rail, and Seoul Dynasty are back at square one.
Yeah, the timing here for Sojourn not doing great at all. 3 final blows thus far. A stick onto the Winston's not going to do much except feed over support, ult charge, and Monk is thank you so much. That's lovely for me. Krillin, sound barrier ready to go, yes, in conjunction with the Kitsune Rush, but now we're in overtime, Lemon, and we know that the objective discipline of this team is not amazing.
Seoul Dynasty are only down by about 20 meters. Shy is translocated out. This is the time for Seoul Dynasty to fight, but they've been slept, and now 2-man antied by Monk. Seoul Dynasty have the sound barrier. They need to fight this with tempo. Kitsune Rush at least first from Lee Soo-min, but Prophet is dead again. The double assassin is too much. Seoul Dynasty 4v5 on the bots, and overtime. They can't get away from it. And Hangzhou Spark have ults they need to win this. EMP from Shy still ready as Leave wants to land this pulse bomb once the sound barrier from Krillin is gone. He will whiff it, but Shy is next to help win this for the Spark. All 4 hits, and the Seoul Dynasty just crumble to ashes.
Crumbled under the weight of the Chinese super team, the Hangzhou Spark. Hang with the best of them and hang the Seoul Dynasty out to dry. Despite rumors of resurgence, a dynasty in a far-off land claiming to come and conquer these lands. There will be no such conquering today. The border wall stands firm. And unfortunately, Prophet gets absolutely shut out of this match with 7 deaths. But most in the lobby. Destroyed by Hangzhou Spark's speed, power, violence, and aggression.
I think just having Belosria in and going for the Winston Mirror might have been a better look for Seoul Dynasty, but all around they've looked better, all thanks to Sunjun, who gave them a real fighting chance, along with Krillin's last-second cap on Havana. Of course, Antarctic was a banger too. But the Hangzhou Spark will be heading to the upper bracket final to face the Guangzhou Charge, the Jodown, as the kids say. First seed versus third seed. That's going to be good with a, of course, mid-season spot on the line, depending on how the lower bracket goes. And we'll have an interview in a second with our player of the match, and we'll announce that in a second. We want to let you guys guess who it is.
Oh yeah, just leave them in suspense. I mean, that's the best way to keep the audience engaged here. We've got ourselves the big old lovely pink banner, but I could not be more impressed with how Hangzhou Spark managed to turn this around and really lean into Shy's power. But the person who makes all of the DPS look good is the man who makes the space. The Winston who makes the double flanker find some real targets. It's Guxue, our player of the match, Mr. Winston himself.
Yeah, and Hangzhou Spark are so reliant on this double flanker, and how Guxue reacts to the hacks or how he plays off of Nano. This is the leader, the commander of these fights, and Guxue is master of the Winston. This whole team really relies on Winston. You don't see them really get away from this much besides maybe 1 or 2 maps of Reinhardt or 1 map of Diva every now and then. You don't see 20 in really that much. And Guxue proves that you don't need to be hyper flexible to jack of all trades. You can simply be the best Winston and crush your opponents.
Worked for Fearless. Why wouldn't it work for Guxue? And of course, even the Ram that we saw on Havana, very impressive from Guxue. We didn't know if it was going to be a major part of his hero pool. He's shown a little bit of the Reinhardt previously, but showing off that Ramatcha, which is so often winning the rush duels, is such an important part of the repertoire, which is going to give him a lot of longevity across multiple metas when, honestly, 20 when he's been in has not looked amazing for the Hangzhou Spark.
Guxue just made Prophet look silly, that Colosseo. Every dive was on top of Prophet. And usually you play the Sojourn to have the sort of anti-dive measure of having a longer mobility, a longer jump away from this Winston. But Guxue knew when and how deep he could go. That's why his death is so low. 2.7 is very low for a Winston player. And his damage is quite up there. And Guxue is one of the most feared Winstons in APAC.
Honestly, crazy low deaths from Guxue considering how much damage was being pumped in. Remember, he was playing against the Junker Queen for a good amount of his time on the Winston, and the Junker Queen is, some would say, a direct counter to the Winston with her ability to stop his disengages using the knife. Guxue played around it incredibly well, and I think this gives me a lot of hope that maybe the Jodown won't once again be a 3-0.
Well, we'll see. Yeah, the last time Guangzhou and Hangzhou faced, it was 3-0 for the Charge, but I've seen tremendous improvement from the double assassin of the Hangzhou Spark. They proved it today. Yeah, we saw like an EMP canceled. Honestly, both sides got their EMPs canceled, but Guxue himself has been, I think, one of my favorite tanks to watch, and he's actually going to be popping in for an interview shortly once he's all connected. And if you are still watching, we're going to have 2 more matches around the corner of the Group B semifinals, and those are going to be bangers too.
Oh, they are, absolutely. I think we can all agree the match of the day is probably going to be O2 Blast going up against Seoul Infernal. Some would say the in-spirit first seed, if not the technical first seed out of APAC, going up against who many people would consider the best contenders team in the world with their year-long win streak yet to be dethroned. Of course, now it's far more in danger as they're going to be going up against directly Overwatch League teams. Still, O2 Blast are a lot to deal with and still are going to be threatening to maybe take away that Group B spot in Mid-Season Madness. They can make it there. They could win the entirety of Mid-Season Madness if you want to really go with the contender scope.
And in the lower bracket, we have Rhodes versus Poker Face and Dreamers versus the Seoul Dynasty. So there is a lower bracket. It's double elimination. So Seoul Dynasty, if you are a fan of them, could make their way through. If you're a contenders stand, the dream is still alive. Poker Face are at least the big favorite when it comes to Group A contenders. And on Group B, I'm trying to stay awake for the Seoul Infernal O2 Blast game. Also, SPG, they're the only team, contenders team, to beat an Owl team. So watch out for them against Dallas coming up too.
Yeah, they could do even more than that because Dallas, they have been shaky this season thus far. They might be our reigning champions, but having lost their support line to the Atlanta Reign, a big old poach from Coach Gator, they are looking somewhat fallible. In fact, very fallible against other Overwatch League teams, but does that extend all the way down to the contenders teams?
Well, we can now extend the microphone to our interviewee, Guxue. Our player of the match will be joining us, and our lovely translator, Evelyn. So we'll get them another hostage going, maybe. Hey, Guxue, congratulations. Do you hear us?
Hello, 顾雪，恭喜获胜，能听到吗？
听得到。
Yeah, it's all good.
Okay, well, congratulations on the win today and player of the match. We all voted for you. What improvements has your team been working on to master and get so much better at the Tracer Sombra dive?
恭喜今天的获胜，也恭喜你拿到今天的全场最佳。你知道我们都选了你是全场最佳。第一个问题是想知道队伍们做了怎么样的练习，能够把这套黑影双短的阵容打得更好。
黑影双短主要是我们练的最久的一套阵容吧，从我们开始结合大家在一起，就一直在练这套阵容，因为这套阵容从守望相位一直以来都是一套比较厉害、比较万金油的阵容嘛，而且是一套 配合度之类很高的阵容。如果我们这套阵容打得很好的话，其他阵容其实稍微练一下的话，也都会很厉害。只是前几场用双打虽然失利了嘛，但我觉得比赛的话没有训练赛发挥的那么好，有些比赛就没有可能紧张之类的吧，就没有打出大家想要的效果。那如果我觉得大家正常打的话，比赛基本上都能赢。
And so the reason we put a lot of time like practicing the Sombra comp is because we think it's a consistently strong comp since the game Overwatch launches, and yeah, because we think it's a comp that requires much of coordination, so we just really practice it hard. But the reason we didn't perform well and like lose our matches in the past weeks is because we are kind of nervous during the official matches. It didn't do as well as what we do in the scrims, but I'm happy that we performed well this week, and I think our Sombra Tracer comp is really like able to beat anyone as long as we perform well. Yeah.
Just really closing the gap between scrims and real performance. Today on Havana, we got to see your Ramatra, which is a hero you're not as much known for. How have you found learning the Ramatra, and what do you think of the hero?
那么今天在浩然大上，我们也看到孤雪选手你使用了拉玛塔这个英雄，想知道这个英雄你对他有什么看法呢？然后你又进行了怎么样的一些训练？
拉玛莎这英雄，我觉得这英雄首先我觉得他很厉害，再然后我觉得我玩这英雄也很厉害，我对这英雄也很有自信，所以比赛上面，所以这次在这张图也换了拉玛莎去玩。
So I personally think Ramatra is a really great hero, and I'm also really confident that I'm good at him. So we will just sometimes use Ramatra to have some new tries for our matches.
Oh, okay. Great. And I mean, you take the win against the Seoul Dynasty yet again, but with the addition of Sunjun on Seoul, what do you think of him? Did this prove to be a bigger challenge to you and the team?
今天的比赛我们也看到首尔王朝队他们上了一位新选手松俊，想问一下，你觉得松俊现在的首尔王朝，和以前的首尔王朝有没有一些不同？
松俊在的首尔王朝和以前的话，我感觉这差不多吧，感觉反正都赢不了我们，感觉没太大区别。
Personally, I think Sungjin performed well, but I don't really feel any difference between like the dynasty with Sungjin or with Profit, because we can always beat them anyway.
Well, speaking of changing team members, the Hangzhou Spark have changed a couple of team members since 2022. Has the team culture changed at all with the new players coming in?
那么说到新选手这件事情，我们也知道杭州队从去年到现在是换了不少的选手嘛。想问一下，就是这样一些选手上的转变，有没有让你觉得整个队伍的风格上也有一些不一样的地方？
转变的话，只是混班变成全华吧。然后混班的话，而且我觉得对我来说的话，没太大区别，大家都是很熟悉、很认识的朋友。
Since we transitioned from a mixed roster to a full Chinese roster, the communication is definitely getting better. But personally, I don't regard there's much difference with the roster changes because we are all really close and we are all like familiar teammates. Yeah, so it goes well for me.
Yeah, I'm glad it's going well for you and the team and everyone's still close. What do you think about the Guangzhou Charge in the upper final? That'll be your next match. How will this one be different?
下场比赛又要对阵到广州冲锋队了，想问一下对这场比赛有没有什么自信啊，或者是看法之类的呢？
我觉得广州冲锋队的话，我之前0比3输给广州冲锋队了，我是很有自信，下次就让广州冲锋队赢回来的。我觉得广州的冲锋队。他们的辅助我太了解他们了，我觉得对我来说很好杀他们。上次比赛 很大的优势输了。我觉得我们下次应该不会犯这种错误，应该会赢下他们。这次赢下他们。
Despite our like 0-3 loss against Guangzhou last time, I think this time we can definitely beat them because their support line was really familiar to me, and I know their weakness well, so I can find some good opportunities to give pressure and kill their support line. So in our match against Guangzhou, I will definitely perform well and get our revenge.
Well, we're really looking forward to that match. But for now, congratulations and thank you so much for the interview, Guxue.
好的，感谢采访，也祝接下来比赛加油。
好，谢谢，拜拜。
Such
Right.
a good time, Lemon, having
Bye,
having Evelyn
Guxue.
on the team now, so that we can have some interviews here on the APAC broadcast. We have our Chinese players. It's great to always hear the insight from the teams themselves. And hey, I like the idea that Guxue knows the ins and outs of that support line. Like obviously, Farway and Xerneas, they are very much known factors in Chinese Overwatch, and Guxue's been around as long as Chinese Overwatch has been around, so he's been able to tap into the mainframe and figure out how to make these dives work in the space between those games.
And the Joe Down will be going down next weekend on the 28th. So mark your calendars, at least 28th in my time zone. You guys know every weekend for the next 3 weeks, we're going to have APAC knockout matches. Coming up next, though, the Group B semifinals, the Seoul Inferno versus the O2 Blast, and Dallas Fuel versus SPG. That contenders team able to beat some OWL teams. We'll find out what will happen on the other side of this break.